Liva here from Bright Young Brains. In this video, we are going through a list of questions that you guys have sent through. Question number 1 is from Owami. It says, good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. I don't know if video recommendations are still a thing, but I was wondering if it would be possible to make a video similar to the pace setter document on how one can effectively go over the courses before the finals this year. Also on how one can ensure at least 60% for finals if they have been getting 40s and 60s. So the last portion of this question, how can you ensure at least 60% for finals if you've been getting 50s and 60s? Well, the one way to make sure that you do get at least what you want for finals is to go into the finals knowing exactly what you're going to get without guessing. I sound like a broken microphone at this point. The only way you're not going to guess what mark you are going to get is if you are able to write the exam multiple times before you actually have to write it officially. So when you're at home, time yourself, see how much you're currently getting. If you want 60s and at home you're timing yourself, but you're still getting 40s and 50s, what you need to do is try and work on the small questions where you're losing marks randomly. You know those questions where you're just making silly mistakes. You lose 1 mark here, 1 mark there, 1 mark there. If you lose 1 mark for every question that is asked in your exam, I mean, remember, usually there's about 12 to 13 questions in your grade 12 exam. If you lose 1 mark for every single question, that's about 13 marks. 13 marks is close to 10%. So those 1 mark questions, those single mark questions that you always like, let's say, leave out, or those 4 mark questions will usually get like 3 because maybe the last portion of the question you made like a silly mistake and you lost 1 mark. Be mindful of that because those things add up. Those are the things that will cost you a good 10% without even realizing. So be mindful of that. Hi guys, Liva here from Bright Young Brains. So the online courses, you have to remember that the sale is ending on the 7th of November. It is currently on sale for just 99 Rand. That gives you access to absolutely everything on the course platform. So all the courses, the entire syllabus, 10 topics in total: algebra, sequences and series, financial maths, probability, Euclidean geometry, trigonometry, calculus, functions, you name it, it is all there on the online course platform. There is a universal discount code that everyone is aware of. It's LE_EVY. It'll give you a further 20% discount at checkout on the website. So if you're keen on that, I suggest you sign up. I mean, as of this recording, the math final exams are just around the corner, so you might as well give yourself an opportunity to learn a thing or two just before the final exam. So one of the pointers that I laid out here is someone asked how they can be more confident. So one way you can be more confident in yourself is by making sure that you at least do what you know you're supposed to be doing. Because when you know you're supposed to be doing something, but you're doing something else, it's very difficult for you to be put in a certain situation where you now actually need to show up for yourself and you're now able to perform the way you're supposed to perform. The only way you can do that is if you prepare properly. The only way you can be confident in yourself is if you know you've prepared properly. Confidence comes from within. It does not come from the outside. People could be cheering you on. People could be wishing you good luck, blah, 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 blah. That's not going to build confidence. The one simple thing that is going to build confidence is due diligence, making sure that you do at least what you know you're supposed to be doing. If all your time is going to where you know it's supposed to be going, your confidence levels are at least going to go up. They're at least going to be at a certain level where you know you're somewhat satisfied with yourself. You're not going to be battling with yourself mentally. Have I done this? Have I done this? Have I done enough? Blah, 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 blah. All that can be dealt with by just making sure that you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but you still feel as though the time is not enough, you then need to put yourself in a certain mindset where you just keep in mind that control what you can control and leave out what you cannot control. You get it? So if tomorrow is the exam, the test, but you know you've done what you can, I mean, you are not going to move the date any further. So anything that you cannot control, leave that aside. The things that you can control, do the best you can. Make sure you sleep enough. Make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you've eaten. Make sure you're at least in a mood where you can sit down and actually get something from the exam. Don't go into the exam when you've already pronounced your doom or something. Don't go into the exam pronouncing your doom, talking to your friends, oh, we're failing today, blah, 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 blah. Stuff like that. It doesn't help you anyway. So stay away from things like that. So the next pointer here was asking what to do when you're demotivated. So if you're feeling demotivated, I mean, like motivation is something that you don't want to make it too external. If you don't hear the right things, if you don't see the right person, your motivation is usually low. You don't want to be that kind of a person. See, just like confidence, motivation is something that has to be personal. Depending on what you're doing for, that is something that should at least motivate you. You get it? So depending on what you want to have as an outcome from your high school experience, whether you want to study in varsity, whether you want to do whatever you want to do that does not have anything to do with going to varsity, that's still 100% okay. Your motivator should be something specific, something a bit simple, but something meaningful. You get it? So I always mention things like, I mean, like if you're in grade 12 this year, this is your final year in high school, anyways. You've gone through school for the past 12 years. Your biggest motivator should at least be knowing that, okay, let me just do this for the last time and be done with it. That should be at least one of your motivators. So if you're going to stay motivated, you can also make it something external, the things you expose yourself to. I did say you don't want to make motivation something too external. However, the environment that you're in obviously affects things like how motivated you are and all that. So the environment that you put yourself in, what you expose yourself to, be mindful of that. You get it? Be mindful of things like that. So, I mean, if things like watching the news is something that you do often, but you're sitting there hearing bad news all the time, I mean, things like that, they go into your subconscious. So you want to at least maybe stay away from a bit of negativity for a bit, go into, find yourself looking at things that are at least going to uplift your mood. These are all over the place on YouTube. Like, they do the trick if you find the right ones. Someone asked you, how do I stay calm during an exam? So during an exam, the one way you're going to stay calm is to not dwell on something that affects your mood negatively. If you're going through a question, right, or an exam paper, and you bump into a question where the first thing that goes into your mind is like, oh, snap, this question is really going to pound me in the face. If that's your initial reaction to a question in an exam, move on. Because the more you're going to dwell on that question, the more that mindset is going to sink in, or the thought that, oh, snap, this paper is difficult. So you want to be mindful of those kinds of things. Move on as quickly as you can so that at least, if it's a 3-hour paper, at least towards 2 hours of the paper, you want to have seen everything. You get it? If you're moving through it as fast as you can, at least 2 hours into the paper, you want to have seen everything. Now, the one thing is people don't make use of things like reading time. You get it? They want to just sit there for the 10 minutes thinking to themselves, I don't want to see the test because if I see it now, I might find something I don't like, then I might start panicking, yada, yada, yada. No. The reading time is for you to actually it's not for you to like start to attempt the questions. No. It's for you to get an overview of what is in store for you, you see, so that mentally, as you're going to be skipping certain questions, the back of your head, like your subconscious already knows that there are certain questions in the future there that you saw that are going to be easier. So the one way to stay calm in an exam, manage your mood. See, remove the thoughts of, oh snap, I'm not done, I still have this to go and time is running out. The one way you're going to be running out of time in an exam is if you dwell too much on questions where you're just putting in a bit of nonsense there. If you know that a question is being answered correctly, you're going to be done with that question in the time allocated. But then when you find yourself spending too much time on a specific question, you already know it's wrong. So why do you have to carry on? Why do you have to come back to it 3 pages down the line? You're still trying to figure it out. That's not how you go through an exam. An exam should be something that you go through almost like as a routine, because as you do past papers at home, you time yourself, you're forming a routine of how you're supposed to operate during an exam. So when you do that often enough, it helps you to stay calm in the exam because you already know what's coming and you already know how you're bound to react. So when you're at home and you're practicing and all that, that's when you're supposed to be grooming yourself to see, okay, this is how I should react to these kinds of questions. I should try and move on because if I do move on, I usually always do have time to come back and I always usually get those marks that I can at least get. The idea behind coming back is you also find yourself bumping into a lot of silly mistakes that you would have made. And as we already mentioned, a lot of those 1 mark, those single marks that you'd have lost over time, they pile up. So at least if you finish early enough and you come back, you at least are able to collect those single marks. And that is something very, very important. Don't take it for granted.